I'm excited to kind of get into the thick of things. Slammiversaries this weekend. I already talked to Carlos, TNA President Carlos Silva this morning.
Mhm.
A lot of excitement in the company just about performing at the UBS Arena. It's a very, large premier arena on the East Coast on Long Island. You have a match going into the show. We're going to talk about that a little bit, but I wanted to talk a little bit about your return to TNA. We had spoken before, um,
I'm
and
sorry to hear that. Go on, go on.
okay, what do you want to talk about more? Because there's lots of stuff that comes up when you think about your career, whether it's title
Yeah.
wins, different accolades. We just highlighted some of the negative aspects of wrestling fandom.
Uh,
What do you want to talk about more?
something that I'm very, uh, not to sing my own praises, but I'm very proud of what TNA has allowed me to do with this Order for storyline. To pull the curtain back a little bit, this internal conflict of Order for becoming this combustible element, this wasn't the plan. Like something had happened, something was planned, that plan fell through. So we had about a month to fill. And this was post Mike Santana after Rebellion, and there was no immediate creative for this group. But obviously, they wanted the group on the show. I mean, they wanted me on the show. So I'm very, very proud that I took it. Like I made it a point to make sure that each member of Order for John Schuyler, Jason Hodge, Tasha Steeles, they were more than just backup. They were more than just like the guys that get more than a mouthpiece and more than a valet. Each person now has a very, very complicated layer character. um, Jason Hodge, you find out that he's actually a good guy, but he's just in a bad spot. He's just trying to make ends meet at home. So yeah, he does things that he doesn't want to do, but it's almost like he wants to leave that gang, and the gang says, "You don't decide when you leave. We decide when you leave."
Mhm.
Then there's John Schuyler that's always like, "Yeah, you know what? Like we're gonna take what's ours and by any means necessary." But when his best friend, the only person that he has that he considers his family, is on the end of that, now he's conflicted. And then there's Tasha Steeles, this person that we thought at one point was a damsel in distress. We come to find out last week that she's actually the devil in the dress. She's manipulative. She's using guys. She presents herself as someone that's helpless, but she's a mastermind behind his plot. So that's something I wish like people talked about more. Like, look at these three backup characters that now have full fledged, in depth layers.
Mhm.
So now, as we proceed as a group, as a unified group, now we're back. We still have these underlying issues, just like families do in every day, just like groups, just like organizations. People work at places all the time where they don't get along. So I'm taking that element of it, and we're still going to go forward with this group. And the stories that can come from it in the future, immediately, who knows, right? But that's something that I'm very, very proud of recently because it just happened, and it was literally a situation where, like, well, Plan A fell through. What do we got? I was like, what if we focus this? What if instead of feuding with someone, the feud was internal? And this is what we got. So I'm very proud of that.
As you should be, because one of the things that I was going to point out was there's lots of twists and turns in this storyline. You could say that it started out as a, political driven character. You were campaigning, but there's a little bit more nuance to it. And as you said, like Tasha's kind of showing like her true colors in a way. Like she's the one that called Cedric, but then she kind of, hit him with the low blow last week, and then you're fighting with the good hands, and there's a lot going on here, which uh, I'm glad you brought it up because at least specifically talking about Tasha, former Knockouts champion, former tag team Knockouts tag team champion. Uh, I really feel like this role kind of elevated her a little bit and showed her range. So,
Absolutely.
how did she how did she get nominated for her current role?
When these to go back to your original question, when some negotiations were being conducted between TNA and myself, I told them about this idea about like a cabinet, and I was like, I don't want to call it a cabinet, but um, and I had some people in mind, but it was Tommy's actually suggestion. He goes, "Why don't we sit down and go through the roster and who pops out at you?" And I remember being specifically impressed by Tasha back at Slammiversary of last year. She had like it was a pre-show knockout something. I'm not sure, maybe, but she had done something, and I was like, man, like she gets it. And they were known as the Good Hands previously. I've always admired their work, and what I came to realize is this is an event session where like Tasha and the Good Hands deserve better. I'm just saying, as a wrestler, I know what it's like to be in their position where you have so much to contribute and you feel like you don't get that. There was just some sort of connection there. So I met with these three and I told them, I said, if you guys can trust me, I guarantee you, and I called it, I called my shot. I said, within 7 months, you guys will have full-fledged characters. And it's not that I had the storyline written out. We just were trying to get me back on TV. But usually in wrestling, I think it takes 6 to 7 months to establish something. Um, and they trusted me. So yeah, in a way, it was Tommy's suggestion, but I did pick Tasha specifically. I did pick the now known as the Great Hands. I picked them specifically for this role, and I was very happy with that decision. And I'm glad to hear that you and I I value a lot of people's feedback, but what I value most is someone that's completely outside of the bubble. Like if I talk to Frankie Kazarian or Eric Young or Nick Nemeth, they know the product, they know the show, they know what I'm trying to get.
Mhm.
You are watching it completely from the outside, like you didn't know about it. So for you to go, oh, I understand this layer and this layer and this layer, that means that we're doing something right and that they hit their roles. They knocked it out of the park. So again, I'm very happy with the development of Order 4, and I think it's just going to get better.
Cedric Alexander is your
Mm,
opponent this weekend. You have history with him,
mm.
obviously, a lot of different stuff in WWE under 205 Live banner. You guys competed at WrestleMania 34. How do you, this, I think, kind of involves asking about the layers of a storyline too, but how do you revisit that history, but also expand on it and make it a fresh take?
So that's exactly what we did. We were talking about how do we make this more than just a rematch? How do we build this as more than just a WrestleMania rematch? What are the stakes? And the stakes being this whole storyline of Tasha luring Cedric in is because she knew that Ali he's rageful, he's bitter, he's angry. I need to direct, and I'm taking it on this group. Her idea is if I can get Cedric Alexander in the crosshairs, if I can direct Ali's fury that way, not only will I get him off my back, but two, it'll be productive for the campaign. If Ali is able to defeat Cedric Alexander at a marquee event, the one guy he's never been able to beat his entire career, a former cruiserweight champion, a former tag team champion, if he's able to beat him, surely TNA management now has to reconsider Ali as a contender, or at least in contention for the world title again. Um, that was the psychology of it. That's what we're trying to go to. And Tasha delivered this great promo where she basically got everyone back into line and said, "Yeah, I duped you. Yeah, I called him because I knew how you would react and what will happen. You challenged him to a match, and you're gonna beat him. And when you do beat him, the campaign and everything will go back to normal, and we get to focus on our goals rather than you just." Throwing a pity party and being rageful and taking it out on referees and this and that. So that's how instead of just bringing in Cedric and be like, "Hey, remember that one time you and I wrestled?"
Mhm.
The caveat now, the carrot, the thing that I'm trying to overcome now is that this is the one guy I've never been able to beat. This is the one guy they always say his name before they don't say Ali and Cedric. They say Cedric and Ali. When they talk about 205 Live, they say Cedric and Ali. They should just say Ali, but at Slammiversary at this Sunday, I get to beat this guy that I have immense respect for. He is a friend.
Mhm.
And that's another layer of the story that, we failed timing wise to deliver. I should have taken it. I wanted the fans to understand that how much Order 4 and the campaign and becoming, this leader means to me. It means so much that within wrestling, I don't have a lot of friends. Cedric is one of my few friends. I'm willing to sacrifice this friendship I have no issues with Cedric Alexander. I love that man. That man is a brother, but I'm willing to sacrifice my friendship with him for a greater good. And I believe me as a leader in TNA, I truly believe I can bring good. And I'm not just talking about like from a character point of view. I'm talking about actual power. I can make sure those that don't have opportunities get opportunities. I can make sure the underprivileged or the overlooked are no longer overlooked. I want to make sure that the right person is doing the right job. I don't want friends getting opportunities. I want, you know, that's the actual why of what Order 4 is.
His name earlier. So Mike Santana, storyline wise, messed with your coffee. That gave
No,
everybody but you a good laugh.
no one mess with this. Okay, I'll let you know that.
So
Yeah.
what's the best prank or rib you've witnessed or been a part of in pro wrestling? Because obviously that was storyline purposes, but is there one that comes to
God,
mind where you're like,
man, I'm trying to think of one that I could share. Good. There's a few pranks and ribs that I don't think the victims of those pranks and ribs know that it was a prank and ribs. I'm wondering if I like um I won't say who. I'll leave names out.
okay,
But this was in WWE, and there was two individuals that were just very, very eager for an opportunity, and there was a bit of a rib that was played on them that said, "Hey, you looked a little winded in there. Your cardio kind of sucked. You need to start showing up at these live events early, and you need to start getting some training in." And then the person playing the rib pointed up at the sky and said, "He's watching," implying that he who shall not be named has a camera planted above there and is watching us. So these two poor individuals who had no idea that this was a total rip would show up every live event like 2, 3 hours before everyone else, and they would just do conditioning, and they would look up and they go, like thumbs up, and this went on for months. And for anyone that knows our schedule back, it's brutal. You're flying, you're landing, you have enough time to grab like Chipotle and maybe a gym session, then you go to the road, and then you're back on the road. So for these guys to come in early was brutal. But yeah, no one. I actually don't think they know that that was a rip to this day.
I want to share the story, but I kind of want to keep it going. Maybe you mentioned in another interview not too long ago you hope to do a 205 live roundtable.
Yeah,
So
we just have so many fun stories, and I think it'd be extremely difficult because obviously a lot of the 205 live guys are with AEW, a few are with TNA, a few are still in WWE, some are scattered, some are vanished off the face of the earth. Um, I just think it's like, I mean, for me, I look back on it very fondly because it was like kind of being in the trenches with these guys. We were like we're like the unwanted like redheaded stepchild, like no one would claim us, so we kind of bonded together, and we just have so many like fun stories of like earning Roman Reigns respect, or John Cena's pep talk to us one time, or the one time The Rock came up and like pulled us all aside, like so many like little fun um stories. And then just there's this photo that I still kind of ingrained in my head. I had wrestled Daniel Bryan on SmackDown. I was the first 205 Live guy to get like called up or whatever. And there's a photo of the entire 205 Live roster and Gorilla just watching the match. And I just remember like, man, it meant a lot to me. So yeah, it would just, I've lost touch with a few of the guys, but it would just be nice to sit down and kind of reminisce. And I think there's a 205 Live fandom, and I know there is because I get their messages all the time. And I think it'd just be a fun, like kind of one night only event, just kind of like, a round table, shoot the breeze as and just kind of like recap some fun stories. It doesn't have to be anything negative or like a woe is me thing. It's just we had some fun times, and I think fans would love to hear some behind the scenes stories and shenanigans and whatnot. So I mean, maybe it's just me.
yeah. No, I think it's interesting. I was going to ask who's at the table, but it sounds like it's a little difficult to maybe organize that now. But I will say it kind of feels like 205 Live is going to, it's after the fact, but it's going to have an appreciation, kind of like how you hear people talk about Velocity and like Shotgun Saturday Night, where I think you're going to, you don't know what you have until it's gone, sort of.
Yeah, yeah. Nostalgia is a hell of a thing, but the thing is, I think when you actually look back at 205, you go like, man, this was some kick-ass wrestling. It's the lack of crowd participation because again, a lot of the crowd would leave after SmackDown. But even recently, I posted like a highlight clip of Cedric and I, just like highlights of us on 205, and then our WrestleMania match. It was like a very, and the amount of nostalgia and the fan, like, bro, this was peak wrestling. Like, oh, man, it's kind of yeah, it's kind of thing you don't know what you have till it's gone. But that weekly episode, man, at the end of the day, 205 Live did so much for so many people, myself included. It was really a launching pad for a lot of guys' careers. You know, Cedric, Roderick Strong even made an appearance on 205 Lives. Buddy, you know. Tony Nese and Ari are doing well in AEW. Just so many guys were able to do, you know, Tozawa's still kicking it, you know, like so just, you know, at the end of the day, it was a huge launching pad and a huge opportunity for a lot of unsigned talent.
Yeah. Well, like I said, maybe one day we
One
get that
day,
chance. For now,
maybe.
Slammiversary, you rekindle one feud. That's Sunday, July 20th.
Yeah.
Mustafa, thank you very much for your time.
My time, Bill. You take care of yourself.